We are here today because Stanford Healthcare is complicit. Stanford Healthcare is complicit in Donald Trump's white supremacist deportation plan. Shame. And when I say complicit, what I saw last week is I saw unidentified ICE agents walking around the hospital with no accompaniment, just free reign of the hospital. Exactly. I saw a patient's father. I was sitting with a patient's father outside the hospital for multiple days, and he could not get any contact with his daughter, and administration would not come out and talk to him. No communication, no respect for administration. And Stanford administration will say that our hands are tied. We have to follow the law. We're just following the law. We can't do anything else. That's a lie. There is no law that says you have to let ICE just walk around the hospital with no identification. There is no law that says, oh, I'm an administrator. I can walk out and talk to this father and explain what's going on. It's not against the law. That's why we say complicit. Because Stanford is willingly going above and beyond what they need to do in order to comply with Trump's white supremacist deportation agenda. And we are here organizing this as Healthcare Workers for Palestine. We have been organizing here for too long now because the genocide is still going on. And through organizing here, we have seen this pattern of complicity. We have seen how Stanford Healthcare cut gender-affirming care for trans youth. We have seen how Stanford Healthcare cut DEI programs without even being asked. We have seen how Stanford University has in its own rules that they will not invest in companies that are complicit with apartheid and genocide, and yet they do not apply that to Israel. They refuse. We have seen Stanford University press felony charges against student protesters. That is unprecedented in the history of student protests at Stanford. So we are the people who've been organizing here, and we see this complicity. We see how it is tied to this system of for-profit healthcare, this system where us as workers and as patients don't have a voice here. So we have been organizing as workers and as students to connect with each other, support each other. And that's why when ICE came, we were the ones who were here and who could do what we could do. And that's why we're here as Stanford Healthcare Workers of Palestine, to keep doing what we can do, keep building connections, because we know we cannot rely on a complicit administration to do the right thing. We know that we need to stand up and make something happen here. So that's why we need as many Stanford staff, as many Stanford students to please connect with us, work together. We have tried going to Stanford administration and asking for answers. We have sent emails, unanswered. The community has sent me emails. They were blocked. We have tried to engage with the policy process. And we knew something like this would happen because we saw it happen in LA. But there was no engagement with staff around this. And so now here we are, out on the streets, demanding attention and demanding change. Yeah! And so we are pushing for administration to come talk to us, for leadership to attend a town hall with us, to hear from workers who were impacted by ICE presence in our hospital, who were impacted by administration saying, forget about your job, forget about your duties, do what ICE says. We need leadership to listen to us, and so we're demanding a town hall in the next 3 weeks. And if they don't come, then we will hold our own town hall where we invite all staff, all students to come and continue this push, because it is going to take a lot of organizing, it's going to take a lot of power, but that's what we're here to do. And so now I'm going to pass it to Dr. Hussain, who is going to tell us a little bit more detail about what happened last week.
Thank you all for being out here today. It really means a lot to all of us to see the solidarity and the beautiful faces, of all the people that we that care and honestly take the time to be here today. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my wonderful colleagues who actually drew my attention to the fact that we have a patient who was detained by ICE and was brought into the emergency room here at Stanford Hospital. And the sad thing about this case is that this could have been completely not an issue. We have patients who are detained all the time, and they come in and they go. But what's so special about this case is that the humanity of the person was taken completely away from her. This person came in after she was confronted by ICE and arrested in a brutal way that made her, to the point she got so sick that she had to be brought into the emergency room at Stanford to seek care. She was so sick, she was septic, she was catatonic, she was admitted to the hospital with 8 to 9 ICE agents in the ward, in the hospital ward, roaming around her, roaming in the hallways, freely moving about with no one questioning their presence. And instead, we as physicians and nurses and healthcare workers, whenever we walked in and out of the ward, we actually had to sign our names and show our badge to prove to them that we actually are legitimate. For me, I was asked 3 times, why am I there attending to my patient and what brings me here? And I said, I'm her primary care physician. It is actually a common courtesy for the primary care doctor to come and see their patients. And that didn't sit well with them. So 3 times they come in, they knock on the door, they take my ID, they try to verify that, somehow there is something wrong in the ID. Well, to add to the pain, she unfortunately was completely unresponsive and unable to communicate. So they had to communicate with a legitimate party, a family member. They were giving her family an update on a daily basis, but they were not allowed, the family was not allowed to call in and check in on her. Moreover, they actually cut off her My Health access to her charts. I mean, if any of you know how important that is to get information about your care and your well-being, for them to actually cut the health from her family, preventing her from the ability to actually access her own record, the family check in on her. On top of that, they would not allow any of her family members to come into the room. Even a supervised visit. I mean, this was so low, so ridiculous. Her father, her elderly father, she was 47-year-old. Her elderly father was waiting outside in this, day and night, trying just to see someone, to talk to about his daughter. Can you imagine? Like, just put yourself in any of us, having daughters, parents, and having to suffer through this, and not being able to get information about your loved one. It really is a criminal, to be honest with you. And so when I go in and I check in on her and talk to her family, her daughter brought to my attention that this was the first time she actually was able to see her mom, through a FaceTime that I did with her after 5 days of being in this. Well, that same evening, they discharged her from the hospital without informing the family that she was being discharged. She was discharged to an ICE agency. This woman, when I went to see her that morning, she barely could lift her hand to hold my hand. But barely. She was drenched in sweat. She couldn't talk. She was literally in a state of catatonia. She couldn't, she could barely move her eyes and just answer with a nod, And yet she was discharged like that. When I talked to doctor on record? And I said, well, how could you discharge her? He said, I can assure you that I did not do anything. I said, I'm not asking about your license. I'm asking about your conscience, how you need to sleep tonight, knowing that you're a patient. I said, if this was your sister, would you feel comfortable sending her with 8 to 9 big men? You know, she could barely stand on her feet. These are armed people, you know. On top of all of this, you know, the anxiety that having ICE present in the hallways of a hospital, this is supposed to be a place of healing and care, not a place of policing, you know. Imagine if there were patients who were also undocumented, who happened to be in that ward, you know, or nurses or doctors who are not citizens. How would they feel walking around by ICE agents, constantly asking them, what can I do for you? Do you need help? I'm like, you're not a nurse. Why are you asking me if I need help? You know, but it's a form of intimidation. It's a form of harassment when you have someone there constantly, you know, interrupting your work, your routine. I can tell you so many doctors and nurses and other staff really did not feel comfortable doing it, but they have to report to duty, you know. Let alone the patients who are sitting in the rooms, you know, being mortified having someone like, you know, literally in every single that a patient was in. There were 2 hallways with connected hallway, you know, an H-shaped unit. There were 2 agents in each single hallway, and next to her door there were 2 agents sitting by the door. This is someone who was 47 with sepsis who could barely lift her head. They had to have 8 to 9 people literally there watching her. How ridiculous it is. This is how our tax dollars being paid, by the way. Like, you know, so instead of caring, instead of actually literally spending money on healthcare, instead of spending money on taking care of people, we spend money policing, you know, so we are turning into a police state. And what does that mean, you know, for all of us, you know, people? So I commend you all for showing up today, because honestly, the worst thing we can do is to remain silent and not speak up, you know, to what's happening. This is really an atrocious situation. These are bad times, and we just need to stand up, you know, for what's right. So thank you so much for being here. And I invite...
I myself am a staff member at the Stanford Emergency Department. And so I just wanted to kind of offer a little bit of perspective from that angle of things, because the emergency department is a very unique facility of care, and many would understand that we can take very, very unprecedented, very dangerous, very volatile situations. We can turn chaos into controlled chaos, and then turn that into healing thereby. And when students walk in our hallways, armed with 9mm and no legal identification whatsoever, that turns chaos into fear, that turns chaos into anger. It only exacerbates from there. And in that kind of environment is not something that we just feel as staff members. It's something that eats onto every single thing that we do in that department. Whether we're interacting with each other, whether we're facilitating care for other patients, it affects everything. But more than anything, I would say that from the staff perspective, it erodes our trust in the system. Because this is a system that we have been taught is built to protect, to heal, to help, to hold. And I saw the complete opposite of that when I see armed, masked agents walking through our hallways, refusing to follow instructions, and see management aware of the situation and doing nothing. The education that was provided to us in the emergency department is the equivalent of saying, just give us a call if you see them. And so we did. So, I just want to important people to understand, furthermore, that ICE have no place in the hospital. But if the hospital insists in following along with federal procedures, however inhumane they may be, it needs to be spelled out clearly, and it needs to be held accountable to those standards. To see masked agents armed with guns in our hallways, going wherever they please, refusing to follow directions, and management seeming to do nothing about it, is a situation that never again. On that note, please make some noise for all the other people who have come together to make this happen, because we saw that the system was failing us, it was failing its patients, it was failing to uphold its values.
And this is precisely what we need to do to keep the accountability going and hold them to the standard that they say they follow. Thank you.
We're under attack. What do we do? When neighbors are under attack, what do we do? When neighbors are under attack, what do we do? Yeah!
No hablo inglés, pero está mi amiga de intérprete. ¿Ok?
I don't speak English, but my friend.
Antes que nada, quiero darle las gracias a todos por estar aquí apoyando a mi hija.
First of all, I want to thank everybody here for being here to support my daughter.
No quiero abrumarlos, ya se dijo todo, la doctora, la licenciada, todos los compañeros aquí que estuvieron aquí hablando. No quiero abrumarlos, simplemente quiero decir una cosa. Quiero justicia para mi hija.
I don't want to overwhelm you with everything. Everything has been said. The doctor has spoken, lawyers have spoken, everybody has talked about it. I don't want to overwhelm you with more. The only thing I want to say is that I want justice for my daughter.
Justicia para mi hija. Justicia. Justicia. Justicia.
Thank you everyone. Thank you.
Claro que sí, sin justicia no hay paz.
Without justice, there is no peace. Thank you everyone.
Okay, everybody, so I'm going to make a joke to start, just to lighten it up a little bit, but I'm Jewish and have family in Israel, and I want to thank Stanford for bringing the Jews and the Palestinians together. Now, we're all for freedom and we're all for the law, right? Did that happen here today? No, and I just also really want to thank your group for the courage and the dedication they showed in showing up this week. It was really tremendous, and I just want to say thank you, and I know the family really appreciated it. I came on Monday because a community member called me because I work at Legal Aid, and I have a lot of contacts high up at Stanford, and I'm like, for sure that I'll be able to talk to the lawyers there. I'll be able to talk some sense into them and get her to see her family, get her treated decently, right? We're all working together for that. So at the beginning they said, sure, her family can be there, and we waited and ICE came and everybody was in the waiting room. And then at about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, they said, no, she can't start her family. Yeah, what the fuck, right? What the fuck? This woman who's 47 years old, her elderly father, who's actually pretty cool, who you guys all just met, what were we gonna do? What were we gonna do? We wanted to make sure she was okay, and as you all know, her condition was caused partially by stress. But first of all, why the hell did ICE agents attack her in the street? What country are we living in? After 7 months of Trump, this is it? We're already living in a place where a housekeeper could be attacked in the street? This is not my country. This is not any of your country. And I'm really, really mad. And I'm out protesting every day, and I hope everybody here is too, because this is not right. What Stanford did was not right. It was not legal. There was nothing. So my daughter and I came back on Wednesday night because we just wanted to see if we could help, right? So we just came to help the family, and the family was here the whole time. We walked up to her ward, which they moved her up to 6 from 1 so that nobody could see her. We were just walking around. You can see what I look like. I don't look very threatening. I look like a pretty typical middle-aged woman. My daughter's 20. I was banging on the door. I was like, let me talk to her. This is my patient. This is my client. What are you guys doing? I finally got a call from the Stanford lawyer, one of the head lawyers. He says to me, Michelle, you're being threatening. We need you to leave. Me? Yeah. So I said, really? I'm threatening? Are you kidding me? I was pissed. I'm still pissed. And then, by the way, this woman was not formally detained by ICE. I just want to let everyone know that. She was not formally detained when this was going on. Stanford just basically capitulated with nothing. They said, sure, DHS, you do what you want. I mean, the way Stanford treated her and her family was beyond criminal. They should be prosecuted for this. This is unbelievable. She left. So then it's even worse than the doctor was saying. She left on Friday night. They knew that there's a processing center in San Francisco, if you don't know, who don't know, it's Sansom Street. Okay, you know. Stanford they took her on Friday night when that was closed for the long weekend, knowing because her family and her immigration attorney, who we've been coordinating with the whole time, was ready there. Right, they were ready in San Francisco to see her, to help her, and they didn't take her there. They took her straight to Bakersfield, so she couldn't meet with a lawyer. So Stanford, I mean, honestly, could they have been any more equal in this situation? I don't think so. So I just want to say, for everyone who works there, who's here, who's brave, and really you are brave, I thank you. Keep fighting. You know, I'll keep fighting with you. This is beyond unacceptable. So thank you for coming, and I appreciate seeing all of you.